Here's a well-paced 10-day Tokyo itinerary that mixes iconic sights with hidden gems.
Think about the last big trip you planned. What was your first instinct? Google? Call somebody? Or did you do what I just did? Ask ChatGPT to plan the whole thing in 10 seconds. Nearly half of Canadian travelers now use AI to plan a trip, comparing prices, finding destinations, building itineraries, work that used to belong to a person. And this kind of shift has happened before. 25 years ago, you would book a trip by walking into an office and sitting across a human agent. There were thousands of those offices in this country. Then the internet arrived. Expedia, Book It Yourself, and most of them closed. The ones who survived moved up from booking your trip to advising on it. Then the machine came for that too. Expedia into Claude, Booking.com into ChatGPT. Now the chatbot gives the advice. But if you ask an advisor how AI has changed their work, the top answer isn't lost business. It's that they spend more time correcting the machine. My guest today is Jamie Prince. He runs a travel company called Prince Adventures with his wife Jakki in Guelph, Ontario. His edge over AI? He's actually been to 90 countries. The bots never left the room. I'm Aalia Adam. This is The Drift, how Canadians are navigating AI. Today, travel. Jamie, welcome to The Drift. Thanks for making the time.
Happy to be here with you.
Before we get into I want to start with you and your business.
Yeah, so I guess a little bit about myself. I spent most of my life as an active traveler. Travel is one of our biggest passions. I used to be a director of projects in a large construction company. So when the time came that I decided to make the shift into travel, I joined my wife, Jakki, who had already kicked off the business. So she kind of kicked things off in 2019 and learned a lot through the times.
2019, like right
Yep.
before the pandemic. Wow,
Yep.
that's really
So
poor timing.
things got really interesting for her. But one of the greatest things that she always took from it is that she was there to kind of help people that needed it. And, as she was learning as well, a lot of new things, she was able to learn and help support people at a time in need. And that built a lot of trust with people when travel really came back to boom. And it became a big success for the part of how our business kicked off with her. And about 4 years ago, I guess in 2022, I left my corporate career and decided I would join Jakki in the business. I'd say we probably live in the average of 5 to 10 countries a day. We always make a really concerted effort to see as many resorts, as many properties, as many hotels, meet the BDMs, the salespeople, the general managers of hotels, build those relationships. So if we see a property we love, it's one that we could recommend to our travelers, then we've already developed a relationship in person with that, person on site that can help, add more value to our travelers experiencing those destinations and stuff like that.
Hmm. So someone can open ChatGPT and get a full day by day itinerary for, let's say, Tokyo in 10 seconds. When you first watched it do that, did you see it as a threat, a tool, both?
I think initially I kind of went, wow, like, what is this going to do for business? Like, this is going to be, and I was like, I don't know, it's just like another Google. And as it developed rapidly, then I started saying, okay, well, travel, what's this going to do for travel? But as much as we've seen that out of the gate, and I kind of felt like an initial shock, like, wow, this is going to be crazy. Like, I just left my career. We're going in this path down this new thing. This is our lifestyle. Like, this is how we make money. I don't have another means of making money anymore. Like, this is what we're doing. So we started really learning more about it and stuff. And today I don't see it as a threat at all. Back then I kind of did, but not today. I think for travel advisors like ourselves, so a lot of us here at Prince Adventures, we use it as an efficiency tool. One of the things that I've started doing more, whether it's on iPhone or on Google Voice, discovery calls with our clients when we're trying to learn about, their trip, learn about if it's somebody new, learn about their preferences, their personalities, things like that. We'll start recording all those calls with their permission. And then that way we have, a full transcription. And one of the things I always like to do is I like to send an email back to our travelers right after we have a discovery call and just clarify and say, hey, this is what we talked about. Did I get this right? Do I understand your request? Do I understand your travel style? Do I understand your needs? I can very quickly dump that into a transcription just by copy and paste. And then I can use AI to summarize it for me. go over it, make sure everything looks cohesive, and then basically take that, dump it into an email, and I can send that back to them within about 30 seconds and giving me a bit of time to review it instead of having to type all those notes out or handwrite all those notes out. So it's not just about saving my time, but it's about saving the time of our traveler on discovery call. So it's been really helpful that way. I use it a lot just administratively for spreadsheets, costing things. So if I'm building out pricing models, it's unreal what I've experienced that, ChatGPT or other tools can do to create spreadsheets for you. And it's not so much for building itineraries, but for helping me kind of administratively reduce my time I'm spending on physically typing and doing tasks of that nature.
So more like an assistant.
Correct. Yeah.
And is there a line for you? Like, where won't you let it anywhere near?
For us, letting it near anything to do with, I would say, documentation, visas, complex flights, major financial stuff of, if we're getting into really high end luxury type of things, sensitive information for clients. There's a lot of things now. I just came up on mine the other day where it's like, enter your link your banking information and this and that. And I'm like, there's no way I'm giving AI my banking
Red
information,
flag.
my legal names, dates of births, things like that. And health and government regulations, insurances, that kind of stuff, like all those things that, as a certified travel advisor, we're to know, and that we have all the actual government mandated sites to work with. We go to those sites, we work with those sites, we work with those tools and those resources, and we definitely don't use, an AI tool to look that information up for us or to hold that as, what would be the gospel thing that's correct or right.
Has it ever burned you, like, given you something completely wrong?
Flight scheduling is often very inaccurate. Um, Train scheduling can often be very inaccurate. Availability, a lot of those types of things that can be seasonal on certain rail lines or on certain flights. Like if WestJet or Air Canada or a certain airline is only flying seasonally to a Caribbean island versus when they fly into certain places in Europe, that seasonality around stuff is often inaccurate, we find. So we've had clients come and say, hey, well, I looked it up. I can go there and I can fly direct in, April. I'm like, no, that's shoulder season. They're not flying there then. Direct flights don't start until June. They're really believing the information they're getting back without really kind of doing any checks. So a lot of times what we see is we see that first draft information being thrown at us and saying, book me this. And saying, well, we can't book you that. And then it becomes well, no, but you can. It's available. And it's like, no, it's not actually available. And the level we see that people are believing and just out of the gate instant trust with AI is unbelievable. We were waiting in a queue to board a plane literally 3 weeks ago. And I think 3 to 4 times in that queue, I heard people talking because they were traveling and so on. Well, how'd you book your trip? Or, where'd you get your information from or whatever? And then, it was all AI, AI. Oh, I found this great AI, AI recommended. And I looked at my wife, Jackie, and I said, like, can you believe this?
Yeah, so when you heard those conversations, did it worry you about your profession and the future of your profession?
Not so much, no. So I think with people looking and using it themselves, especially if they're new, there's too many ideas. There's too many things that they'll see. There's so much noise. And even before AI, you could go online and you might want to, let's just say 70% of Canadians do all inclusive resorts every year. So if you're looking at an all inclusive, you go online and you don't know what to pick because you've not been and there's so many. So,
I've been down that rabbit hole. And then I just said, "We're not going. We're not going. Too much. There's too
yeah,
much."
yeah. And so it's one of those things that sure you can go on, an AI tool and say, okay, hey, this is what I like, this is whatever. But you got to learn how AI uses things, how it does its research, what it finds. Maybe it's saving you time on scanning reviews and stuff. But even at that, like reviews are very subjective. So there's a human connection, there's a human side of it that is just so much more important when you're doing all this. The most important thing is learning about you and learning about, what you like to do. Are you a beach person? Are you a breakfast person? Does it matter if you sit by a pool or if you sit by the beach? Like, do you like busy days? Do you like quiet days? Do you like a blend? And then we can kind of look at the itineraries and better say, this is what you should do. And we can narrow down all of that noise for you. And so we're doing well. We've got a lot of people that trust what we do. They believe in, the experience and stuff that we have. We've traveled to 90 countries, 7 continents. It's a passion that we have in life. So we bring a lot to the table with that. Our real niche stuff that we love is, fit trips, which is fully independent travel, which is a lot of detail oriented things. So if, somebody wants to go to Europe for, 2 weeks, 30 days, 7 days, but you want all your transfers, you want all your hotels, you want all your tours, you want everything done, but you don't want to join, a small group type of tour that's an off the shelf product. When we develop all that stuff for them, and we have an app that's, our own app that we use, and it gives them all their information, everything. So it's every detail is fully curated and put together by us to ensure that, it's a perfectly executed trip. So that's a big part of our business, experiencing the polar regions, the Arctic, the Antarctic. They're a little bit more complex to get to. They're not just as easy to buy off the shelf. We've been to those regions, so we can bring a lot of experience to that on, what to pack, the best time of the year. If you want to see penguins, you don't want to just see penguins, you want to see the chicks, and you got to go at the right time. And so a lot of that stuff, and, the relationship aspect of it. We've been in the business, since 2019. We've put a lot of emphasis on building the relationships. So I think that that drastically matters. We've seen over the last so many years, how valuable that could be, whether it's getting people upgrades at hotels, getting upgrades on cruise ships. AI can't book you your virtuoso hotel that gets you upgrades and amenities, and, add on to that, the relationships that we have to get extra little perks. We don't feel that, we're in jeopardy. But if you're, a new travel advisor and, you're not experienced, you're not very well traveled. Like, some people get into the industry because they think maybe it's a fun industry, but they don't have a lot of experience. They've not traveled a lot themselves. And if you're just using, online sites to book hotels for people, then I would say people in that side of the world might need to, definitely learn how to get more involved in using the tools, and, how they could diversify a bit better. Um, but for us, I don't feel that we're, at risk or feel too concerned for the future.
You keep coming back to the relationship. So something you can create that AI can't. Was there a specific time where a client needed you and there was no app for that?
The most recent one, I had a client that was down south, and their flight got canceled, and it was put off until like a day later, late at night, routing through a whole different city that was not even remotely coming back. And they were like, "What the heck's going on? What am I supposed to do?" It was at a resort that we had a great relationship. We knew the GM at the property very well. We've been down a few times ourselves, and, done a lot of inspection in that property. And I said, "You know what? Just stay put 1 second. Let me talk to the hotel." So they gave me a really good disaster rate that turned out to be like $300 a night, all inclusive, which was awesome because the GM understood. They helped us. We had the relationship with them. We got them booked on the other flight, which was a free thing because of the change with the airline. So basically, instead of having to get up and move and go to a different hotel and pack and unpack and try to enjoy the last day they had, we got them to be able to stay in their room. They were out having a cocktail, and they sent me pictures. They were having a cocktail by the pool while I was dealing with their problem for them. So the insurance covered their additional, $250, $300 charge for the room. And they got home on a better flight than if they were to take the suggested flight that the airline gave them. Um, that's just a recent example, but things like this come up all the time. I had another client that just, they forgot their driving permit for going to Italy. And, it's one of those things you can easily forget. You can forget your ID, you can forget a passport, anything. But we were able to help them work through that. On that travel case, we work with a lot of DMCs, which are called destination management companies. The DMC knew the car rental company well. They were able to talk to the car rental company. We were able to help advise our client. We had in destination support because the time zones were different. And they had all that knowledgeable support in that destination to get things resolved that day. So things like that come a real value, where if you don't have an advisor, and these things are, let's call it free, really. Like, we we earn a commission. Like, that's how we get paid, right? An AI itinerary, it may look fancy, it may look nice, it may look like it's going to suit what you want, until you realize it's not living up to the expectation, or you see the gaps or the flaws in it, and then you're stuck, stranded, and you're on your own trying to deal with it.
Hmm. The travel agency world seems like it's gone through a lot of upheavals. I mean, Even if we just go back to when the internet showed up and Expedia, all these websites where people could just book their own flights, their own activities, excursions. And then, of course, the pandemic put another damper on travel altogether. And that's when you guys really started your business. So that's really incredible. You must have built a lot of resilience there. Do you think AI is the next shift?
Or is this one different?
I'd say it's definitely going to be a bit of a shift, and it's going to kind of I think what it's doing now is it's making people feel like it's just easier to access information. Everybody can find information. It's out there to anybody, but, knowing who to believe or what to believe is also a big aspect and a big part of it, right? So if you have an advisor that you work with, then you have a trust in them. And because AI got it right that time doesn't mean maybe they'll get it right the next time or so on. But I think there's definitely going to be an impact. And I think it's going to be more in, businesses like I was mentioning earlier that, if you're a newcomer to the industry, you're not very experienced, you're not very diverse in what you sell, if you're, more of just a hotel booking or a flight booking person, things like that, it will be more challenging because you're not really bringing a lot of value to the industry or to your travelers or clients that are looking to go somewhere. But if you can bring experience to people, you can, show the trust that you've earned over the years and, show some of the relationships and the add-ons and everything else. Google's working, they've got the Project Mariner, I think it's called, where you can go online and basically pick a hotel room and, add a tour and then click book and you can add your credit card in and everything else. Sure, that's great. But if you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're getting into, um, and if something does go wrong, that's where the value really comes. And that's where the value of an advisor really comes in. But there will be impacts, 100%. I'm not too worried for the future for us anyhow.
It's all happening very quickly. It's changing every day. Does any of it keep you up at night?
It keeps me curious. I can't see where it's going to go that it could take away that human connection and that human touch that somebody can put on an itinerary to really make sure it's personalized to what they want and to make sure that they get the best experiences. Most people, their average travel spend for a household in Canada is probably, 8 to 20%, which is a huge part of their budget. If you said to anybody, if you were to make a $20,000, $30,000 decision, that's, financial, generally you would want to speak to somebody that's a professional or that's, a financial advisor or that's a lawyer or somebody in an industry that's going to really guide you and help give you that professional advice. I look at travel the same way. It's the biggest part of your annual spend for a lot of people. So, if you want to just trust it to AI and not know versus, having a professional have that support and be there for you and then also, be there with you the whole way through your journey. It's those types of things that make me feel comfortable and be able to sleep at night. So,
Jamie, thank you so much for this. You've given us a lot to think about, like what a machine can do, but what still needs a human when it comes to travel.
yeah, no worries. It's a pleasure to talk about it. And obviously, as we know, it's a very big topic of the world right now. So, yeah, no, it's very fun to talk about.
Thanks for listening to The Drift, how Canadians are navigating AI. If you or someone you know is doing something interesting with AI in their industry, I want to hear about it. Find me on Instagram at The Drift Canada. I'm Aalia Adam. Bye for now.